one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're not gonna wait on Matt Cleveland tonight, he's not gonna be here.
Why is it?
Oh, well, he went to the baseball game.
The Royals.
We're gonna have a board meeting at the Royal Stadium. Approved consent agenda. I have a motion, okay. Number 3, consent agenda. Yes. You're going to. Okay, public comments and correspondence.
Yes, we have something this evening. And I would like to ask our teachers that we have here in attendance to come up at this time. Yeah, come on up.
Don't be shy.
Representing all of our teachers this evening. And we're going to talk a little more about this when Mrs. Williams is here in October. But thank you guys, and thank you for being here. And I wanted to let you know we do have a poster recognizing our STEAM certified teachers. This month marks an exciting milestone in our journey towards becoming the first STEAM district in Missouri. The district received word this month that our entire entire team of classroom teachers who were trained last year are now STEAM certified. Our journey towards becoming STEAM certified began with our teachers learning to implement STEAM into their classroom instruction in the 2014-15 school year, and they really worked very hard at that. Our STEAM works through promoting creativity through the arts with science, technology, engineering, and math as the cornerstones in developing college and career-ready students who are able to compete in the global marketplace. Benefits to students include an integrated whole brain approach to instruction, a focus on innovative problem solving, creative critical thinking, engaging in relevant learning experiences, and again, the college and career readiness piece. It really does support our district vision and our core values, and I really just want to thank them for their hard work on this because they have done some amazing things for our kids. In order to become STEAM certified, the teachers were asked to design rigorous, relevant lessons that incorporated all the content areas to help our students make those meaningful connections and to allow them to extend their learning across the disciplines and to be able to serve real-world problems. And in fact, they did such a great job with it. They are making extensions this year, and I know Mrs. Allen's already has taken her students on a STEAM kind of STEAM-ish type of field trip. Yes, and teachers, yes. So it's been amazing. Mount Monster is the first pre-K through 12 STEAM district in the state of Missouri, continues to model and implement a highly effective instructional program based on meeting our student learning needs through highly effective and engaging instructional practices. Please join me and help celebrate our teachers, Mrs. Williams, in accomplishing this very important goal. Again, STEAM certification really aligns very closely with our district vision and core values, and I just want to thank them for all that they have done because each one of them has been personally involved in writing the lessons for our beautiful STEAM projects. Our 4th grade classes have created in the art classes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. Matthews, I would just like to update our board on the monthly financial update. Our year-to-date revenue generated, thus far anticipated revenue is 19.5% of the anticipated amount. Year-to-date expenses realized is 13.2% of the budget. Thus, budget trends are healthy for the fiscal year 2015-16. I'd also like to report on our student enrollment numbers. They do remain very solid. We're at counting our kindergarten and our Title I and early childhood special education students through 12th grade. We are at 1,554 students. and our monthly average daily attendance percentage district-wide was at 95.77%. So I want to thank our students for coming to school, our teachers and staff for encouraging our students to come to school, and our parents for getting them here to school. So that's a very good percentage rate. Advocacy efforts update. I did attend the NAFIS, which is the National Association for Federally Impacted Schools Conference. It was a very timely and important advocacy event to attend. My visit to Capitol Hill and meetings with senators, representatives, and legislative aides helped bring a united message to Congress that the $10 million basic support increase provided by the House bill would maintain the current lot, which is the learning opportunities threshold payout for impact aid. In addition, advocating for the House funding amount proposed for the Department of Defense impact aid of $50 million compared to the Senate proposal of $25 million was imperative. They're also looking at an additional $5 million in funding to help support the education of our high needs special education students. Of course, we figure that that the Congress will probably come somewhere in between those $2 amounts. Congress did pass a continuing resolution, which they call a CR, to keep the federal government open through December 11th, 2015. Unfortunately, a CR only delays critical budgetary outlays for federally impacted school districts. So it'll be interesting to see what Congress comes up with, and we will definitely provide updates once we receive them. Of course, there's lots of conversation too about the reauthorization of, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So we'll see how that progresses. That's important to us because Title VIII monies are under that act. So MSBA update. We did attend the fall MSBA that hosted the conference in association with the Missouri Association of School Administrators. Went very well. Some wonderful breakout sessions and the presentations. Mr. Fisk and Mr. Cleveland did an outstanding job presenting and representing our team for the Outstanding Board of Education and Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. And then Mr. Fisk did a great job helping me out presenting on just our journey of growing as a learning organization. So thank you. Also, the Region 5 MSBA fall meeting will be held on October 29th, 2015 at Marshall High School. Please let Katie know if you'll be able to attend at least by a week before October 22nd, 2015. Those are very good professional development opportunities. Mentoring update. Anyone interested in becoming a mentor? We are having our third training. It will be held on Friday, November the 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. At Knob-Noster High School in the library. And if anyone is interested in that, please contact Mrs. Wesley, who is our district mentoring coordinator. And that is the end of my fourth report. Thank you.
Martin.
Good evening. Would like to let everyone know that we just finished our one of our big inspections, nuclear surety inspection, and so just want to utter the words nuclear surety. I'm sure I get people's attention. And as taxpayers and neighbors, I'm sure you'll be glad to know that while we don't have the final report from the Inspector General, they left here telling us for sure that we'd be rated as safe, secure, and reliable. And as far as inspections go, that's about as good as it gets in the military. Many of our folks got accolades individually, but as a base, safe, secure, and reliable is what we're shooting for, and that's what we got, and what the final report will say in a few weeks. The next big thing coming up for us is the annual fall exercise, Global Thunder, which will again put us on 24-hour shifts for folks, 24-hour operations rather, and that'll be the first 2 weeks of November.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations. Okay, new business, bills. Are there any questions? I got a couple. All right, we'll go ahead.
On the physical therapy services,
Yes, ma'am.
didn't we hire somebody last year, or is this for something different?
We hired an occupational therapist, not a physical
Oh, okay.
therapist. Yeah,
So, okay.
no, but that's right, that was a change. This is our first year to have an occupational therapist on staff.
And just,
We have an occupational on staff. We hired out the contractor.
I guess one of the questions I have is in reference to the bills in general. I see some, it seems to be a lot more information provided to us based on what I've seen in the past on some of these bills. And some of these individuals' names seem to pop up. And I'm wondering what the exact reasoning is why we're seeing so many more bills now as opposed to what we've seen in the past.
Well, a lot of what you're seeing, and you've seen in the past, have been field checks, but we are doing, POs for everything. So that was one thing that we really tried to enhance with our new system. Plus, we have a new person doing accounts payable, so she has a format that she's using, and I think it's a very good one. And we are in the heart of activity season, or just closing the end of fall. So we have hired a lot of officials, scorekeepers, gate workers, that sort of thing. So that's why some of those names, announcers, will be on there.
So that's why Jesse Softfield's name is on here,
Yes,
and why haven't we seen it in the past?
it's been on the field checks. It's been, well, when he gets paid for it, when he works.
Right.
Yeah, he only works the fall season for football.
Right, but I haven't seen his name on it in the past.
Well, when it's turned in by our activities director, then we always run it through the payroll, just like we always have done.
Yeah.
And City of Sedalia, prom,
Yes,
we're just out paying for prom, or is this the prom that's coming up here, or what?
that's for
this
this
part
coming.
of past year, or this coming year.
This coming
Yeah, we had to put a deposit down.
We have to put the deposit.
Thank you. And here's our thing, the event can occur, but until we get the invoice, we can't make those payments. So that's why sometimes it seems like there's a large separation between maybe the event and when we pay for it, but we cannot pay for it until we receive the actual invoice.
Well, I looked at my previous year's bills, Dr. Lorenz, and I never saw Jesse Softfield's name on any of those.
I don't know, I will have to check with Mr. Adams. I mean, his paperwork to see if he was paid last year, but I know he is paid this year.
Well, I'm curious as to why our students aren't doing that. That's a great opportunity for them to get up in the football and make those announcements. I mean, I think Mrs. Allen has a program where those kids could get up there, and if they have aspirations of becoming an announcer or working in a sports field or whatever, here's a golden opportunity for our kids to utilize that. Give the booster, the sports booster, the $25 or whatever. Anyway.
We will definitely take note of that. I do know some students do work out with the reporting right now, and I know Mrs. Allen's been expanding opportunities to have those real world experiences for our students, so we'll investigate additional opportunities.
So prom's gonna be in Sedalia again this year at the park.
Yeah, that part, yeah, what it was last year.
Actually, it was really nice, the courtyard area.
And we didn't receive the billing till like,
Well, this is the deposit for next year.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
This is for the
yeah.
spring.
But sometimes we don't. It can be anywhere from a month to 6 weeks.
but it's a good thing we're paying the deposit early, so we know we've got a place to go.
Right.
Great job.
B&C Construction, did we bid the concrete pad out?
Mr. Dr. Wheeler, you and Dean worked on that.
Yeah, it was billed, it was bidded out. It was. No voice says it was good.
Why are we paying Grandview School District?
Because when you have a student that is put by the courts and care of another school district, they're placed living in perhaps residential and having to go to school according to the court. Wherever the parent resides, that sending district has to pay the tuition to the school. And this was from last year, was one of those issues where they were trying to identify where the last known resident of the parent was. And it was between Knob-Noster and Warrensburg, and it was deemed that the last physical address was in Knob-Noster. We'll get that from time to time.
Consulting fees for learning momentum. What is it?
That, I believe, was our Rage to Reason consulting, and that was something that we sent some employees to training this summer. And then there's follow-up by one of our trainers comes in and provides us feedback, and it's specifically working in K&E.
What kind of outdoor furniture did we buy for the high school?
Actually, it was a donation from the class
That's
of
the senior class.
Yeah, the senior class. They bought it, and it's really nice.
That's that chair sitting out
It's
there.
that bench up there at the main
The
entrance.
2015 bench, yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's
It
really
looks really nice,
Very
doesn't it?
nice.
Yeah.
And we had to pay for that?
No,
The senior class fund.
We have to run it through our activity account, and that's why they pay for it. They raise the money, but it does have to run through our school account.
Anybody else got any questions?
Do we pay $1,200 to the Nob-Item every month?
No. We're paying your subscriptions.
Oh, okay.
but that also included advertising.
And it was advertisements too. That's what
We're
costs.
paying this
What, every time you get out something, you put it, try to put it in an item, and then that's how it's paid. So that's why those are a little more expensive. Yes, that was a lot. Good question.
Any other question on those? I need a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the October bills as reported.
Form A.
Form A.
I'll second.
Form B is not on here.
Yeah, it is, it's the heating and fueling, we just started in the bills, but it's in the attachments, and it's the heating and fueling one, usually goes separate.
Just made that so that Clint would be clear on what.
All in favor?
I
So we'll do B.
make a motion to approve form bills of Form B.
Was this what we talked about the refrigerator? Is this Form B, is this about the cooler? Or-
No, this is just monthly.
Oh, okay,
that we do.
okay.
Yeah, that was
Is that how we
separate.
talked
Yeah.
about that?
No, that's a good question.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I asked for board docs to be moved from this meeting to next meeting because Matt's not here to give his presentation on Google Docs, so we'll go ahead and have that lady talk to us next month. Then we have Jesse here from the bank. Just move you from the bottom to the top, so.
Remember that when you're trying to get us some good rates or something.
All right, so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Jesse Lomax. I'm the branch manager of Equity Bank here in Knob-Noster. I have a close working relationship with the superintendent here, as well as the assistant superintendent. I have been tasked to find some different investment options than what the school currently has. And so that's what I'll be doing tonight, is presenting some comparisons between what they currently have versus what we can offer. I've given each board member a rate sheet that would be in front of you. I would ask that you look at the bottom at the part that I've highlighted where it says public fund customers are not eligible for the above checking, savings, money market, or CD rate. I have been contacted and able to quote rates. They are similar to what is on. currently the school district has a money market account with us that is currently paying 0.35%. And from what I understand, the school has an investment with an organization called MOSIP that is currently earning 0.05%. I've done a couple of different variables and I've done this based on simple interest for 1 year, interest accrued monthly. If we were to have $2 million in an account at 0.35% for 1 full year, where the interest paid monthly, the value would equate to $2,007,011.24, or to break it down even more, $584.27 monthly. I've versed that with MOSIP. I'm not sure exactly all of the parameters that they have. So again, this is just an estimate of what it would be. If the MOSIP account had $2 million in it at 0.05 for 1 year with the interest compounding monthly, it would be $2,001,023. So that equates to $83.35 monthly. I've been told that right now it's somewhere around $90 or a little bit over that the school is getting monthly from interest.
It's $96.
So I figured, again, I'm not sure what their parameters are, or how they pay, or if they accrue monthly. But at $3 million, if it's at 0.05 for 1 year, roughly the school should earn $1,500.34. Again, that's a simple interest accrued monthly. So that comes out to $125.03 monthly. So I'm guessing there are probably some fees, administrative fees that are coming out of the school's cut that is bringing it down to the $96 monthly. If we were to move that into the money market account, in addition to what we have, if we do say $3 million, it would be $876.41 monthly, just on $3 million. I looked at it before I left the office tonight, and it was roughly, it was over $2,500 that the money market account earns just for 1 month, for the month of September. And that's what was credited to the account. I looked into some CD options, very short term, a 6 month and a 12 month. I can do a 6 month CD at 0.15, and then I can do a 12 month CD at 0.35. Which I think most of it has some CD options that may be paying a little bit higher. That's okay. And again, if we can, our CDs do pay monthly, the interest, so of course it's going to be equated a little bit differently. Once the interest credits to the CD, then you're earning interest on top of interest, so on and so forth. But roughly, if you do $2 million in a CD, you're going to look at $584 a month in interest. So
For the 6 or the 12 month?
the 12 month, the 6 year just.
See, on the money market funds, is there a load fee or no load fee?
So, I mean, there's no cost to set up the accounts. There's no cost to the schools from whenever we bid out that contract with the schools who bid that out every so often if there's a need to. And so it's in our contract with the school that we don't charge anything like that.
Any transfer fees or anything?
And that's another thing that I want to bring up as far as the liquidity of the funds. We want to make sure that the school has access to those when they need and not to have to go through a lot of red tape or forms to get that. And so there are processes in place, dual control processes, so it's not just on one person, to be able to move that from the money market account to the general fund that's needed.
Jesse, on that money market, is there a guarantee rate, or is it just fluctuate with the market?
It does fluctuate with the market. I will say, I mean, I've been up here for a year and a half now. It has not changed. I have not looked back as far as the history of the accounts, but I'm pretty sure that they've remained steady for as long as the school district has been our customer.
And what is the difference between the platinum and the titanium other than the percentage interest rates? Is there a volatility loaded with that, or is
The titanium, you're limited to the amount of transactions that you can do. So you are only allowed one withdrawal per month on those. I mean, I can see if there's anything that we can do to, go outside of that, but that is set by the bank.
And platinum is,
Platinum, you can do as many, transfers in between the accounts as you want.
and Jesse, that's what we have right now.
That is what this
We
will-
have a platinum account right now, the money market. And so that is, yeah. And we have no troubles at all transferring money.
And then my other question is gonna be, are all these funds 100% secure? Are they backed by any insurance or?
They are 100% secured. What we do at the bank to make sure, I mean, because of course we're way outside of the 250,000 FDIC threshold. So us as the bank, we go out and purchase federally backed securities to back the funds for the school. And that keeps you 100% protected in case anything were to happen.
Do you pay for that, or does the bank pay for it?
The bank does. And we also,
Yeah.
and we also control it and, monitor those accounts to, add the securities as we need to. If there, is a large sum of money to come in, that way there's always continued coverage.
Jesse, this is a rather large dollar amount that we're looking at here. Beside coolie cups and other little things like that, what is Equity Bank willing to give back to the school district and the community in exchange for, the growth in the community, which would be the growth in our school district?
I guess I would ask as far as what are you looking at as a give back? Because currently, Equity Bank is a large donor to the school.
What is that? Could you repeat that?
The bank is we donate quite a bit of money to the school district each year.
Well, I know you do those football calendars and the basketball calendars.
We do that, and we also cover a large portion of the school reach program that we have. We, for the last 2 years, have donated $1,650 towards that program. The reason why that is we covered the full amount for the school whenever we had TextCaster. And that was the amount of the TextCaster billing. We decided to terminate our agreement with TextCaster, and at the same time the school did as well. And so the school reach was a little more cost. So what we did as the bank was continue to donate that amount to help cover the large portion of that school reach program. And then we support the yearbook, the booster club.
Max at the middle school.
And we did this.
Well,
There's lots of different things. So
I understand that. I guess where I'm going with this is our community needs growth.
right.
Not only would it help our ADA, but it would also help our economic environment and in the district, for example, we don't have a grocery store anymore. We have a lot of empty shops, so on like that. Building is pretty stagnant in our local community. And these are all things that you have done in the past. If we give you a $2 million, that's quite a boost to Equity Bank, who powers to be there. And I'm just wondering how we're going to benefit from that.
And I can look into that. I mean, I cannot speak for the bank as a whole, because of course I have a lot of people over me that kind of govern that or govern what I say. So I can definitely look into that and get back with the board or get back with Dr. Warren.
And for the record, we like the coolie cuts.
But I understand it's a very menial, object for the amount of money that we're talking, so. Yes, Dr. Warren.
Any explanation on why the 12-month CD rate versus your money market rate is typically you see those 12-month CD rates a little higher, I would think. So,
Yeah, so the CD rates for us, it always hasn't been a real big focus. And so I'm sure there's a lot of regulations that go in behind it, and we have specials that, make it appear to be more attractive, like if we do a 13-month CD. Those are offered, just for our everyday customers. And then, like I said, I'm sure there's a regulation somewhere that says that we can't offer a 13-month at that rate for public funds. There's a lot of government involved in all of that. And so as we would notice on there, the 12-month rate, I think, was at 0.35. Well, the 1 year is actually 0.10 for a normal everyday customer.
oh, okay.
So we've increased it to the 0.35 for this. Any other questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for supporting our school system in the way you do, so
I
appreciate
the
it.
partnership and look forward to continuing that moving forward.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. Tracy, thank you very much.
Go
Um,
ahead. Well, and my question is Equity Bank the only people that we've gone out to with this on this?
Well, Mr. Birchie and I started talking about this late spring, early summer, about just looking at options, and seeing if we could get better interest rates. So we did go visit with Jesse. Jesse had his supervisor come down from Kansas who visited with us a couple occasions. And also I did have Moses come down on site a couple times to visit with us. We did not reach out to any other bank at this time. We just kind of looked at what we had been doing and is there a way we can do it better? I'd like to also say before I present the Moses information, and I've asked Jesse to stay for this too, because he and I do have very good working relationship and we're trying to see how we can best, maximize this opportunity for our district. But you have to keep in mind too, even though we do have, the 3.1 million or so, in the MOSIP, we have what's called liquidity accounts. And so that means we can take that money out at any time without any penalty. The trade-off of that, and it's protected, it's collateralized, it's protected. The trade-off of that is we have a very low interest rate right now. But I do want to note that we did not receive our first basic impact aid payment that we were expecting until February of 2015. So it's hard to tie up a whole lot of money into 6 month, 12 month, time periods because you're not certain when that impact aid paycheck is going to come in. So we've received our first big basic payment we called for impact aid in February. It was February 5th. We got the notice. It's put in the bank like 3 days later. So it was probably right around February 8th. Our second payment was in May, big one, which is our B2 payment, which are heavily impacted. And we didn't receive the voucher until May 15th, and it usually goes in 2 or 3 days later after that. So that's the thing is going, how much do we tie up our money? Do we put all of our money into one institution? Do you have it just in one bank? Do you have it in multiple banks? Do you have it in other investment opportunities? That's something else the board needs to consider, some other things. I will say that we have not had any problems with our money market at all, being able to move that money. So that's been a good thing. However, I I do have some information, and I did put it in your board packet online, but they did bring some flyers from MOSIP. And just a little bit about MOSIP. It was established in 1991. It's been in existence for 24 years. And its goal is to preserve safety, provide liquidity, and maximizing yield while minimizing expenses. It is a local government investment tool and has a very high security rating. All investments meet applicable Missouri Constitution statutes and state statutes for investment. MOSIP has 310 members with a total of $1.04 billion invested through liquid series and through term and CD programs. Each participant owns a prorated share of the MOSIP liquid series. Various professional organizations, cities, city governments, counties, associations, school organizations use MOSIP. It's not just school districts. It's owned by the investors and governed by a board of directors. There are 5 executive directors. And MOSIP pays all fees associated with investing in the program, including custodial fees. It says there are no fees to the school district except if you start doing working with CDs, and then there is a 0.15 charge is what they told me in their presentation. They were unable to be here this evening. I did print off the most up-to-date chart for you as well, and that was in your handout along with the binder here. And you can see that there were 3 sheets there. The first one you can see is if rates that we could get if we purchased 4 CDs and for the different times, their time amounts anywhere from 90 to 365 days. The next sheet you can see here really is subject to availability, and it is like one large CD investment option we could look at. And then the third sheet is the fixed term and the rates that are available. Again, with the CDs, respectfully, I do want you to realize that there is that 0.15% cost on that. And you can see the 180 days to 6 months, it was right at about 0.50. But you take that down and that would be about 0.35 for that one. However, the year one was at 0.70 today, and that goes up and down, and that would take that to about a 0.55 on the CD. So just a little bit of information about MOSIP. I really think it comes down to what the board is comfortable with doing, how long we're comfortable with tying up our money. With the liquidity, what we have right now, we can get it out anytime through MOSIP, through the money market, through Equity Bank. We could take it out at any time and not have problems paying bills if our impact aid payment did not come in on a timely manner. And with the threat of, we only have a continuing resolution until December 11th. So we hope they will work that out. But, those are some of the unknowns. So really, as a board, just deciding how long we're comfortable with tying up. Do we want to look at a CD option? Do we want to move money to the money market equity? How comfortable are we, and what dollar amount would we be comfortable with? We could consider looking at part of that 3.1 million, like investing 2 million of it, whether in CDs or in a money market, at a little bit higher rate, and still have that 1.2 to draw. That would be easy for us to get to. But I do think we need to do something. Now's the time to do something.
And Dr. Lorenz, I agree with you 100%. Looking back into the spring when we first initially started talking about this, the interest rate with MOSIP at that time, it wasn't 0.05, it was 0.04.
Yes, it was.
to me, that was very, very disturbing that we would be receiving that kind of interest on such a large amount of money. You know, and so I sat down and, you know, with a pencil and paper and figured out what it would be at 0.33 or 0.35, and it was alarming what the difference was over a period of time. Now, I feel like even though our money is sitting in this pool of X number of billions of dollars, they're still owning that money out one way or another. They're reinvesting it to somebody else, and they're making money off our money, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion. But I feel like it would be a good opportunity for us to probably look at Equity Bank and maybe invest $2 million with them, leave $1 million, 1.2 million or whatever we got for the remainder with most of it. But it's disturbing to me that they continue to pay us such a low rate for such a long time. And all of a sudden, you know, I feel like, okay, they've got these new magic numbers for us, but it's only because we brought it to their attention. You know, that's not the way I want to go on doing business.
How long have we had it?
We've been for quite some years. I tried to look at some, I asked them, you know, investments, you know, how often did we do a CD or a term? And it really just depended. And I think the reason why and there were some years there weren't any, you know, it was all in liquidity. And I think the reason for that is because we can't ever guarantee when those impact aid payments are going to come in. So I will say that I know I have data at least through 2009 that I know there was, yeah.
But if some of that money was sitting here locally, there wouldn't be any. It would be relatively simple to transfer funds from one account to another in the event that we needed those funds in a relatively quick manner.
That's right, Mr. Birchie, and Jesse's been wonderful in assisting with that. So the big thing is the collateralization and making sure that it's insured, and Jesse's assured us that it would be.
No, that's okay. I'd like to hear more back from your higher ups on some of the points that we just brought up. Maybe we could have a second reading on this and give us an opportunity for a month to look over the information that's been provided to us and maybe have some more communication with you guys
Sure.
and come back to the board next month with some more input.
Certainly, we can do that.
Does that sound like a viable
Yes, yes.
solution there to everybody?
Just mention to them, our net, it looks like our net on 365 day CD is 0.9. And I mean, we have enough funds that we could put those in CDs. So, you know, it'd be nice to get to somewhere close to that because we've got a lot of liquid money right now that clearly if we're going to keep it liquid, it goes into your account. But if we're going to go with the CD, we need to get closer to their 0.9.
And I can go back to them, and if Dr. Lorenz would give me the information that she's given you, then I can go back to them and we can discuss that further.
That'll be great. Sounds good. So the direction of the board is we'll have Jesse do a little more research and we'll meet with him and have him bring some information back to our board and then probably move on this next month then. Right, what they can offer to us. Right, absolutely.
And
I mean, I don't want to bribe you or anything, you know.
well, and Mrs. Matthews, I don't want to overstep any boundaries here, but I would ask the question, what has MOSEP done for you? And what have they done for the school?
Well,
That's a
And
good question.
and the community, for that matter. So,
That's a good question, and because they haven't done anything for us that I'm aware of, okay? And Dr. Lorenz, you could probably, you know.
No, there's
okay.
no.
And that's why I bring this up as a point, you
Right.
know? Because if we're gonna go through this and transfer our money, then why not get a little bit something?
quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Jesse, I have another question for you. On the 13-month certificate on new funds,
Mhm.
it's a 1.13 ratio. Now, because we have some funds already in equity, are we exempt from the 1.13?
the public funds are exempt from those specials, and that's what that is considered. They
Well, you
only,
said some of them were the same, so I didn't know.
right.
So you mean on like the 13-month and on the lower ones, we're eligible for them?
Anything from,
1.35.
I believe anything from the 1 year to 5 year mark, at the upper portion of those CD rates, would be what public fund entities are eligible for.
Okay.
So truly that equity titanium might be something that could be investigated.
I can see if that's an option,
That
yes.
would probably be the vote.
And I
That
can,
would be crazy.
and I can bring that back next month.
It's
So.
just, there are some restrictions because these are public monies.
Correct.
And that's why.
And I'll get a little
some of
more,
those rates.
and I'll get a little more detail on that and then present that next month.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome.
I want to say one more thing too that I think is very important to consider, because I was kind of drilling you on the rates there, but you know, the way that you and your team worked with us on some of our recent payroll issues doesn't show up on the bottom line, but it definitely is very important and valuable to us. So I know, I believe the board's aware of that, and as is Dr. Lorenz and myself, and we do really appreciate that, and that's absolutely going to be taken into consideration when we would go to make a decision. So thank you for that, and I want the community to know our sentiments, that we're very appreciative of that.
We appreciate it.
Ms. Matthews, I do it. Would it be okay that, I guess I would like to recommend then, obviously with that additional information though, that the staff administration bring next month also the mix of what they would be comfortable with,
Yes.
what's locked down in CDs, what's, liquid. So we at least have some proposal to jump off from next week, and we're not just starting from scratch for that dollar.
Specific dollar amounts.
Yeah.
Right.
We sure will.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring a proposal.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, so, do we have to have a vote on that?
No.
Next is map results.
Mrs. Moore? Yeah. Pull those up.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
So just a little bit of that, I am just presenting information for April. She's the one that created your slides for you, but I know that you've already seen the information there. She's presenting at the national, I forget the name of the conference.
ELL conference.
Okay, and so asked me to be here in her speed rather than trying to do it, via electronics. And so we thought that this might be a little bit better approach. So when we look at our map and EOC data, one of the things that I do want to clarify really quickly is when we talk about MAP, that stands for Missouri Assessment Program, and really that's the whole entire state assessment program. However, when we started talking about specific tests, generally the MAP tests are the 3 through 8 tests, and then we have EOC, which is end of course testing, which is also a part of the Missouri Assessment Program. But that is at the high school level as well, and actually it goes down to 8th grade in some instances. So that's what we are talking about when we're talking about MAP and EOC. So I think first information for MAP starts on slide 7.
Yes.
Yeah, 7, 8, yeah, there we go. So we are looking there at the English language arts, and all of our students, when they take tests, they're either proficient, which means above grade level, advanced, which is at grade level, basic, and then below basic. Okay, so those are your levels of what we're looking at. We always like to look at the proficient and advanced students, and we kind of group them as one. And so when those are just the raw scores from last year. Now, one of the things that makes looking at our data not a little bit difficult, actually very difficult this year, is that these were all new assessments. And so we don't really, we think these are good, and when we compare them to state averages, this is very good data. But when we look at longitudinal data, it's very hard to make any connections and comparisons. We like to when it's in our favor, but we really don't know what that means just yet. All of those, there's that 3rd grade where it's in purple, that's kind of highlighted. I'll explain that in the next slide, actually. So then we look at the cohort group data. So take 6th grade, for instance, in 2012, then they would be the 7th grade tested in 2013 and the 8th grade tested in 2014. And so that's what we're looking at when we're looking at cohort data. as educators, we like to look at those groups. Because sometimes we'll have a group that goes through that's just a little bit lower for some reason or the other, or a little bit higher for some reason or other. They just tend to score better. And so we like to look at those cohorts as they move through. But then we also like to look at that longitudinal data, just 8th grade across the board or 7th grade across the board. How are we doing? The 3rd grade, I've got to remember this. That purple 3rd grade there that's highlighted, that is the first grade level that has tested. They've had the Missouri Learning Standards in place, okay, since kindergarten. So that is the first cohort that tested this year, but their Missouri Learning Standards were in place as kindergarten. So they've had these heightened standards, I guess is what you could say, throughout. Any questions about any of that data?
Right. So since we're following the 6th grade from 2012, 52%, then we have a big growth of 62.8 in 2013, and then we drop back down in 2014 to 52.
No, they would be 68.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow that diagram.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you're welcome. And again, that's why, it kind of looks like we're pretty steady. Like, just take 8th grade, for example. It looks like we're pretty steady across there, and then we have a big drop. But when you look at the cohort data, it really isn't a big drop. We think. We don't really know because they're new tests. So it's really hard to put the data and make a lot of sense out of it. And our teachers are struggling with that as well. We just don't know. What we do compare to, though, is our state averages, and we know with all the, our teachers have been working their tails off. And it shows when you look at compared to the state averages, it shows we are above the state averages and above the surrounding schools as well.
We were in the top 12% in English language arts in the entire state.
So all of the hard work that they've been doing is paying off, is what this data shows us. So.
Do you think that just having it on the computer skewed a lot of data?
And that's what we don't know. Yeah, absolutely. There are some tests that this was the first time they were given on a not paper pencil. So yeah, we don't know.
Especially for that 3rd grade.
Yes.
It's still a good number.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. All right, so the next information. Our next is our map. And so I want to make sure I don't have any special notes there. I know that this might look a little concerning. However, at the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level. However, let me explain this as a math teacher, okay? Because as a math teacher, when I was teaching, and we did some vertical alignment with the old standards, when you looked at the old standards, K through 8, the standards were a nice, very, very nice linear progression. And then 9th grade, all of a sudden, it was just all of a sudden exponential. There was a huge jump from 8th to 9th grade in the expectations within the standards. So what the new standards did is they tried to even that out. They recognized that problem. And so when you take this and you move it up to this, well, the people who are going to hit the biggest front are those middle school levels. And so those students really, they have had a big gap in the support that we've been able to give them. They haven't been taught a lot of that stuff. So just plain and simple, it's no fault of any teachers. So my question was, okay, that makes sense to me, but what does that look like across the state? Did the state experience the same things? And so I asked April to pull that data for me, and actually we are still above the state averages in everything except, let me pull that up, in everything except 7th grade. We were just a hair below the state. We were above the surrounding schools in almost everything. But, does that mean we don't have to, we know we still have to work to those things and we have to try to get our kids up there. But it still speaks to the hard work that our teachers have been doing, that we're still above the state. And I think that their hard work is definitely paying off there.
Now, will this Math and Focus fill in some of those gaps?
Well, it's Math and Focus, it's a mixed bag. We've got a supplement, even with Math and Focus, we've got a supplement. And so that's why it is important to know what your standards are and to be teaching according to what our kids are supposed to know. that remains to be seen. Hopefully, we will see those gaps start being filled in as we're teaching to the higher standards from the start.
Is there a struggle though? Well, now that there's teaching to the higher standards, is there a drop in the daily curriculum learning by the students? I mean, do you see a significant difference in?
Well, what we are trying to do is anytime you're trying to raise the rigor, you still have to meet the kids at where they are. And so if our kids have been learning according to these standards up until 6th grade, you can't just automatically come those new standards. We have to scaffold that learning and build that in gradually. So our teachers are doing a great job of meeting our kids where they are, really trying to continue to push them. We've been doing some vertical alignment to try to figure out what that looks like as a district, and how we can help meet those gaps for our kids that haven't had those standards all along. So
what are we doing for the ones that are struggling?
that's what we're providing interventions. We brought in professional development to try to help our teachers look at where are our gaps, how can we meet that. We brought in an independent person to kind of look at it without any bias, to say, okay, because all of us as teachers, we have biases as administrators. We have biases when we're looking at it because they're our kids and we care about them and we know what we've been doing is working. And so what in the world? We brought in somebody that's independent to look and help us discern, well, you know, are we teaching the same K through 8 to build those kids, to support those kids where there are gaps? Is what we are doing, is that causing some of the gap? You know, I mean, that's always a possibility. Are we using different terminology at one grade than we are another? So we're looking at all of those types of things to try to build into supports for our teachers and for our students.
How long do you think that's gonna take before we're leaving kids in the dust?
Well, I hope that, well, like I said, 3rd grade is the first grade that has had the Missouri Learning Standards in place 100% since they've been in school. So we hope to continue to build that up and support those kids and those teachers, throughout that process. I mean, we hope that by the time those 3rd graders are up here testing in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we don't see those kinds of gaps.
One of the goals of the district this year was to increase those math scores. That's one of our goals. And I know was it math and focus, yeah. We're hoping was gonna help with that.
Well, and see, that's another
But do you
thing too,
think
and that's
there's-
what I say, it's really hard to compare that data.
Yeah.
This is a new test.
Well,
We don't know.
I know that after looking at the ELA that you just showed us and knowing that we have a remedial reading teacher at the elementary level, but we don't have a remedial math teacher at the elementary level, could that possibly be part of the difference in this? The scores for the ELA didn't look near as pitiful as this does, knowing that we have a remedial reading coach or teacher at the elementary school. Can we help some of these kids that may be slipping through the cracks with a remedial math teacher or KM?
And I don't know, but again, remember, this is a whole different set of standards too. The ELA standards didn't make that big jump, and that's the difference here. ELA standards really didn't change a lot. So is it something we can look at? Absolutely, it's something we can look at, there's no doubt about that.
How's the grassroots scores look? I mean, we have all this data and everything, but what does it look like at the actual grade level with the students? Now that I know there's a process in which it's gonna take to build up to, you know, the testing level. But as we're doing that, are we sure that we're not, I know you said you're getting professional development and everything, but that's for the teachers. Are we making sure that we're not leaving the kids behind while we're trying to figure out how to teach them? Are we leaving any behind? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, Mr. Condilly, I just might
Yeah,
like to add,
absolutely.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we obviously have room to grow. You know, we know that. We still were in, because it was a new test, you know, and the standards did change and were elevated. We still were in the top 14% in the entire state in math. So we're doing some things well. We know very well in math. We want to continue to build on that. I do have to say, the students in 3rd and 4th grade, have had Math in Focus. This is our 4th year with Math in Focus series, which really teaches the linear and the conceptual piece of math. And we are inclined to believe that that curriculum has had, an impact on their learning. So we're hoping over time, that new series will help that approach to teaching that linear and conceptual approach. But you're right, we're kind of in a stopgap, especially in those middle grade levels. That's where we're getting hit the hardest because of the change in the standards, number one. And number two is the kids haven't had the Math in Focus yet. You know what I mean, in the middle school. They will.
Yeah, because if I
Does that
remember
make sense
correctly,
for
looking at the
consensus?
math data from last year.
Right.
That we were showing some
Right.
some bad spots there.
Right.
And that was why we were hoping that the Math in Focus would change that for this coming year. I just really want to make sure that, I know it's a new test, I know that, everybody has to relearn and refocus and everything, but I just hope while we're doing that, we're not leaving anybody behind.
Well, and that is the purpose of the training, is to help ensure that we're not doing that, absolutely.
That's some pretty low percentages when you look at these kids who are gonna move on to high school, have algebra and on up, and to have a 32%, they're gonna struggle,
Well,
But I would say that algebra hasn't changed. Algebra is just about the same as algebra has always been. There's not a lot of changes there. And so our kids have always done well when they come to algebra. I don't anticipate, this is a different test, so therefore the scores look very different, but our kids still have the same information coming to us. And if anyone would be defensive of that, it would be me, because I don't want a lot of kids who aren't prepared, you know what I'm saying? But I'm really not concerned. I know that our teachers are still doing a good job and they're working hard to make sure those kids know what they need to know.
And that little star was from the 8th grade.
Well, in the 8th grade, back in 2000, I think it was in 2013. Yeah, our 8th graders started, their math scores were not, in 8th grade, they either took the Algebra 1 EOC or math. So a lot of your top kids weren't being counted into the 8th grade math scores because they were being counted into the EOC Algebra 1 scores. So it's really hard to start tracking cohorts when you get to that 8th grade level. Because then your kids take a lot of different tracks at that point. Okay. Yes, I think we're ready for that. And then that just shows the math cohort again, and you can track them through. Again, even as you're tracking the cohorts, and this is what I'm saying, our kids still know the same things that they've known all along. When you look at that 5th grade 2013 cohort, and then 6th grade 2014, and then this big old jump, that's not because they don't know half as much. But according to that data, it looks like they do. It's a different test, different standards. They still know the same things that they always know.
It's just very alarming.
It is, but that's why I asked for the state data, and I asked for the surrounding area data as well.
Wait.
And so science is one of those content areas that is only tested in 5th, 8th, and then as a freshman. So it's very, very difficult to track cohort data there. But again, there it's almost a linear progression kind of that we look at rather than cohort data. But they're all doing very well. And I don't think there were any special notes there that April had for me or that I would want to bring to light.
We were in the top 26% in the state on our science scores as well.
And also 2015, she does have noted here, was the first year that science for 5th and 8th graders were taken on a computer assessment. So, we don't know what difference that makes. Questions about the science here? And then social studies, the only area tested in social studies is government at the high school. And so we've got our advanced and proficient, that we are actually very proud of that growth.
Top 11%. Yes.
So if we could go back to the graduation rate, we're showing a 30%, I guess 30 kids, or is that 30% will graduate on the first page?
First page here.
Possible point.
Those are points.
Well, those are points, yes. We get 30 out of 36 there. for
Well, we
graduation.
didn't, but all of our kids did this.
It's a percentage. And so if you get this certain percentage, we get the 30 out of 36.
Our APR will, for 2015 will be released later this month, and we definitely will share that in November, and we are anticipating some very good scores. We're very proud of the progress of the
You know, earlier in the year, I don't know if we discussed it in here, or if I had discussed it personally, the college and career readiness.
Yes.
That there had to be some changes in that on career tracking and et cetera, et cetera. Has that been done?
Oh, Mr. Pinelli, that's the area we're gonna be really tapping in. I mean, all areas we did well in, but we showed tremendous growth in that area. And I have to really contribute a lot of that to our high school team and Mrs. Morris, because they've been working very hard on increasing dual enrollment opportunities. Right now, Mrs. Morris, wrote a grant to investigate, implementing more advanced placement courses. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow on that, and a group of very dedicated teachers attended some institutes this summer to learn more about that. That will all impact our college and career readiness score, as well as our kids doing well on the ACT, or the ASVAB, or whatever college, whatever test they take. But everybody does take the ACT, they take the highest score.
So that there is a better tracking happening.
Yes.
I know there was
Our counselors have worked real hard
there
on
was a little slip.
Right.
Well, and we've also worked very hard, this is probably better left for next month, but we worked very hard within our career and technical education courses to have those completers that they follow through a track for 3 years. And so we've been really looking at that programming and tracking and following that as well. And encouraging students to follow those and be completers within their areas.
Dr. Lorenz, would you mind sharing, I know you've seen the data, but would you mind sharing with the group why that's not being shared tonight?
Yes, yes, about the APR. It is embargoed, and so we cannot talk about it at all. They give us, we can look on the secure site and see an approximate score that we have. Next week, we are anticipating getting our official score, and then a couple days later, it will be released to the press and media. I definitely will send an email out to our board as soon as we can release it. So that is why we can't officially release it. They are making last minute, making sure that the score is accurate, that they tallied all their, and there was a period of time where we could go in and make corrections if we felt like we hadn't tracked something, or we missed a student, ACT score, or a completer. We had marked a completer on it for technical. They give you a window, and then they embargo those results until a certain day. It's looking very favorable. So.
Did we say that this year we were gonna go through Study Island all the way through again? Or for the reading of the language arts?
We're using Study Island for mathematics this year for our grant, the STEAM grant that was part of the data we had to collect. Now, on the ELA, we are really using more of the STAR and our wonders and collections, but we did add STAR at the high school.
That's what it
So we can
was.
better track and we're really excited, and I know Mrs. Morris has a lot of ideas on how to put in some support for our high school teachers.
I'll have a proposal for you next month.
I guess one of my questions would be,
I'm sure you will.
I guess one of my questions would be, is the Study Island actually working for us? Are we better off moving away from that and adopting more STAR reading and math programs? you know, because I'm hearing a lot of good things about those programs and a lot less about Study Island.
And Mr. Birchie, that's an excellent question. The district has used Study Island for some time before Mrs. Morris and I both got here, so I'm not sure how many years, but it's been several. But that's something we've talked about is we need, and I've asked Mrs. Williams to really look at more of a balanced approach to our assessment program. And so we've been meeting with our teachers too and trying to get feedback from them. In fact, last Monday, I know I was in some professional collaborations where teachers were giving us input about assessments. And you're right, we're starting to hear very positive things about some of our STAR and looking at some, and what our teachers have really asked us for, I believe is more of a diagnostic type of benchmark, I shouldn't say benchmark, formative test for mathematics. And so we're trying to look at those opportunities as well. So I would anticipate seeing some changes next year.
Good, because one of the reasons I asked that question is, you know, the STAR reading and the STAR math are one thing, but when you add the Study Island to it,
right,
it's just that much more time consuming, and we're putting extra work on somebody else's plate that may not need to be there.
Well, and right now we don't have STAR math, Mr. Birchie, but we're very interested in looking at that because we've had such good success with our STAR reading, counterparts, that's something we're seriously looking at, and our teachers have asked us to look at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know that having talked to administrators in other districts, it may work good here, so.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Linus.
All right, building improvement plan.
Yeah, here we go.
Is that?
I'm back. And I think high school's the very first one on there. So, teachers, collaboratively, that's the first thing we do together is, we determine what our building goals are going to be. We look at all kinds of data, as I know all the other buildings do as well. And we kind of correlate all that, and we determine what are we gonna focus on? What are the big things that we're gonna focus on for the course of the year? Student achievement, we are going to continue to increase student achievement as determined by the EOC and ACT assessments. We're going to, our goal is to increase the percentage of students scoring proficient or advanced on the EOC assessments by 6% yearly. And then we will also increase the ACT composite score by 23 by the 2016 spring assessment. And that is a huge, that is one of those big, hairy, audacious goals that some books talk about. Will we reach it this year? Probably not, but we do not feel comfortable in lowering that goal as well. We want big goals to work towards, and eventually we would like to be there. Will it happen this year? We don't know. That would be a humongous climb. It might even be miraculous. But we had a debate about that, and we determined that we don't want to go with that. So. And then we also, looking at that growth, we know that we need to also take a really good look at our data analysis cycle. And so we are going to really dive in and learn about and study that data analysis cycle on at least one common assessment per unit. And common assessments is something that we had put in place the previous year. So we've got common assessments in all of our courses. And then we know that research shows that when kids are involved, they do better academically. And so we've got some baseline data, and we would like by the end, or actually we're working on the baseline data, we don't have it just yet. But by the end of the 2015-16 year, we want at least 80% of our student body involved in some sort of extra or co-curricular club or activity. Our teachers do a marvelous job of providing opportunities for our kids. You walk into those hallways after school, and there are teachers with different clubs. We've got anime clubs, we've got book clubs, we got clubs everywhere. We've got the co-curricular and the extracurricular. And so our teachers work really hard at providing those productive things for our kids, and we just want to find that method to encourage them and push them into those clubs. Any questions for me? Thank you all.
Thank the teachers for us for doing all that. That's
Oh,
awesome.
absolutely.
Good evening. There's 4 primary goals that we're working on in middle school, and I want to kind of jump ahead to our 3rd goal, which is about math. And I sat in on Monday when we had a vertical team and talking about some of the gaps that we might have, ways that we can overcome some of those gaps, identify deficits that students have. And so our goal, looking at that, says 60%, we saw our test scores, but I want to say that that one test score on that one day doesn't really depict what goes on in the classroom. I can stand here and comfortably tell you there's amazing things that go on. And when we talk about these students that have learned math in a particular curriculum format, early on in elementary formative years, and then moved on to a different one, we have teachers that are having to work doubly hard to make up for some of those things. And it's good things that are happening. So I want to give kudos to where kudos needs to go, because being in a classroom when you have a variety of abilities with students, you've got to find amazing ways to engage the students and get them to learn math. And I will say that the math is changing for next year. Bethany Johnson spent 3 days last week before being able to write those assessments, so kudos to her for getting the time she doesn't like to have in the classroom, but she felt it was important for her to be there. So thank you for doing that. So back to the first 2 goals. 80% of our students will be reading at or above grade level at the end of the school year. And of course, when you look at goals, we always shoot for 100%. But I think being a realist, you've got to recognize that, we've got to meet all of our students, like Mrs. Morris says, where they're at and show progress. And so this is the overall goal, but our goal is actually to have all students show growth of some sort. And so we have lots of measures in place with our STAR reading test, and then just things that are going on in the classroom to show that our students are making progress. So we're working at 80% of all of our students being at or above grade level. And there's great things going on when kids, want to get their AR goals and they're wanting to get on the computer, they want to read those books. And that's exciting, because where I came from, we didn't use STAR Math, we didn't use the accelerator programs, and so it's awesome to see kids that want to get those books and read. Our second goal is on ELA on math. So obviously, math is how we're judged as a school district, so it needs to be one of our building goals to show that we're working towards progress. So 80% of our students, and again, we always shoot for 100%, but we have to be realistic in meeting our goals. Our last goal, goal 4, being new. I didn't want to implement a lot of change. I wanted to kind of embrace the culture that was there, which is very good things going on at middle school, and there's fantastic people. But one thing I'm passionate about middle school is bridging that gap between elementary and middle school, going from having a homeroom and one teacher to having feasibly 8 or 9 teachers in one day. And so we've implemented advisory this year, which is the first 12 minutes of the day, and then in most cases, it's also the last 18 minutes of the day. And so this is a chance for us to build community within our school. It's a non-academic 12 minutes where they just build a family unit. So the students have an advocate that they can go to if they need anything. They have students that become kind of their family, and they do all sorts of different activities. Everything from character ed to team building to discussing current events to goal setting. And so what we're trying to do, these things are important. We can't have test scores if our kids aren't in school. We can't have high test scores if we have disciplinary issues that are distracting our teaching. And if we have failing grades because kids are doing their work and we're not, intervening and helping them if they don't have the support at home that they need, this is a good way for us to do that. So I'm excited that the teachers embrace it. I know it was just one more thing, but they were excited about doing it. And so it's been great. The kids are excited about it. And through this program also, with such a transient population, we have Panther pals in our advisory group. So when we get a new student, when they're assigned to an advisory, we assign them a Panther pal that will show them their classes, introduce them to new friends, introduce them to teachers, sit with them at lunch, some of those things to help ease their transition courses. And that's been very positive also, because just this week we had 4 new students show up. And so just having a peer-to-peer relationship, I think is very important. And so far it's been really good. I'm thankful to be here. There's great things going on at middle school, and I invite any of you to come and see what's going on all the time. Because it's so much more than the test scores in front of you. It's about people, and there's great people there. So, anybody have any questions?
The 80%, you said that is for all your students. Do we include the special ed students in that too?
Yes, we do.
That's a pretty good goal.
It is. And But like I said, I think our main underlying thing is that we see where the kids are at and so that they show growth. You know, that's a lofty goal, and we'll do everything we can to meet it, but our main goal is to make sure every student shows growth. It may be small growth, and it may be great leaps, but we can do it in the right direction.
Is that 12 minutes at the beginning and the 18 minutes at the end? Is that what the same?
For most cases, except we do share teachers with the high school, and so that kind of changes who they are with some of the students in the afternoon. The roars that we have in the afternoon is more of our intervention time, or time for students to do homework, and we're still kind of tweaking that a little bit to make sure students are in the right place. So in some grade levels, if let's say some kids are struggling in math, the math teacher may pull those students in and work with them during that time, instead of just giving the students opportunity to do their homework or whatever they need to do. So that's a little bit more flexible and more academic focused than advising.
So that is your intervention time at the end of the day then?
So can you use these mentors too over there, or is that just?
Oh, we'd love to have any kind of mentors we have. We actually are starting this quarter, we're trying to get it worked out where some 8th graders mentoring our 5th and 6th graders. Those students that don't really need that time at the end of the day to do their homework, they get their stuff done during the day, and really spend some time working on one-on-one clear things.
Do you think on the goal of 8% that the star reading has impacted that? I mean,
Oh, that's
or it will? Do you know anything about star math? Would you like to adopt that program?
I am gonna have to advocate for that because we had that and we've
So
had
you
some
would be a
of
strong
that.
supporter of it.
And in the math vertical team, that was one of the things that we talked about is really figuring out where students' deficits are, figuring out where their grade level equivalency is in math, and then designing interventions specifically, and that's all set up right together. So they can be assessed as well as do practice on the things that they need. Now, it would be supplementing what they're already doing in their math program, but then they also have the supplemental individual program through Star Math. So. But that's one of the things that came out of our vertical team, and I think the teacher looked at over and says they're very interested in adopting something like that and looking at something like that. So hopefully we can get something.
You're up.
Michael Hook, White Elementary, great to be here. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to be board of the district. I also want to thank you for your support. Really take care of us and goals. I also want to thank Whiteman Air Force Base. It's a great partnership. We recently had guard dogs at our schools. They had a good go around school over the weekend. And Diane Monty's done a great job supporting the schools.
And it's not that nobody's locker.
No, they planted some stuff. And so elementary schools are really a collection of stories. Part of my routine is after I do my announcements in the morning, I do rounds. We just walk around each of the classrooms, short greeting. This kindergarten class was doing the writings, and they're all pretty focused. And I knelt down and I asked one of the students what she was doing. And she didn't say anything. And then after a brief pause, she said, "Dr. Woolhood, did you brush your teeth?" I said, "Yes."
Wow.
She said, "Sure, let's go." So it's great to work at elementary school.
You learn so much about yourself, don't you? So much about yourself.
Two questions, two places. I also want to give kudos to my administrative team. We meet other principals in the district. We meet every Friday, and this is really a great place to work administratively. All the administrators from Central Office, assistants, and such, they do a great job of coaching the kids. And it's a great collegiate spirit. Our goals are pretty simple. We want students, 80% of students to score 80% higher in their energy or math. We also want all of our teachers to participate fully in both professional learning community philosophy during our Wednesday afternoon meeting sessions. That basically means that principals give up a little bit of power and really try to involve teachers as mental practitioners to learn the best for students. We have a wonderful staff. They're all doing good things for the kids. From Ms. Villadon, thanks for being here, Ms. Wood. So those are our goals. We recently had the Dads and Donuts day in the morning. It's a great time for dads, get together, have a quick start, they get a donut, a picture, and some happy times. We did, I think, 30 dozen donuts. We also had a character assembly, we had monthly character assembly, this one was for responsibility, we all did the written dance after, put it on Facebook, it was great, I don't know how to do it, but I tried. And one of our next big things is we're gonna have Father's Day. So, lots of good things are going on. We're doing a big day, big team analysis at the end of the month to really check. One of the things you really want to control for it right now is mobility. You want to make sure that the kids who are there all year long are really measuring their progress. It's kind of an accurate reflection of our teaching organization. So, we're doing a pretty transient population. You don't want to take credit. The kids are moving late, my buffer scores too high. You really want to look at who are the kids that are there all year. Any questions? Say what? No, I think it's 2 unroyal steaks.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Hi. Christina, I wanted to share our building goals. The first one is our math goal, and it ties to the CSIP gold standard one for student achievement. And it basically, we kind of have been really trying hard between Whiteman and K&E to kind of diligently work toward the same pace this year. And so I sat down with my building leadership team and we started looking at assessments from last year and data. And we scored it really well in math and ELA, actually very well. We scored 66 and 67% proficient and advanced in math. And so, but the teachers were not happy with those scores, of course, striving for excellence. And so they wanted to look at least 80% of students to score 80% or higher in the district assessments. Not just looking at math, but we have new district common assessments that we're looking at. And so scoring between the second semester assessments from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, a growth of the 80% scores there. So that's our first goal. And then our second one looks very similar, except it's in ELA. 72% of students scored in the advanced or proficient category in ELA. And so they, of course, weren't happy with that either, so they wanted to increase it to at least 80% of students to score 80% or higher in the English language arts on second quarter assessments, or second semester assessments. So whether that be the math assessment or district common assessments. And then our third goal is a technology goal. And teachers approached me with a technology goal and said that they really wanted to focus more on implementing technology in the classroom. Rob Noster is vast in our technology and things that we can do with it. I think teachers have felt kind of limited on time. So we have implemented some different things. I created a survey on Google to show them how easy it was, and I gave it to the staff and they were able to go in and score it. And 33% of them felt proficient or advanced in incorporating technology in the classroom. And so we sat down as a building leadership team and kind of said, what do we feel comfortable by the end of the year? If we're at 33% now, what do we feel comfortable by the end of the year being proficient and advanced? And they said the same thing, 80%. They wanted to hold the same expectations for the staff as they did the students. And so we have started doing some Tech Tuesdays. We're using the Eric Rainer. Aaron, thank you. Kind of really analyzing the technology newsletter that he sends out and trying those. So I've encouraged staff to try different websites and different tricks in the classroom and bring those back. And then we share those on Tech Tuesdays kind of to implement and strengthen our technology. And what we started to realize over the course of the last month is we have a lot of great things that people are using in the building, just other people didn't know they were using it. And so that is really kind of strengthening the understanding of technology. And we've also met with Jeff and Ben in the building, and they kind of help with little issues that we come across for technology. So I think those are 3 goals.
So is your Tech Tuesday, is it every Tuesday?
No, we started out once a month, we're moving it to twice a month, so.
And everybody comes to that?
It is optional, so you'll see some people show up every time, some people show up occasionally, and then we can share the Google Doc that just has those. So even if they don't attend, they have the opportunity to try those websites.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you.
Building improvement plan. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was just looking, I heard all of it. High school. Sorry. I will bring this closer to me. High school, okay, Mrs. Morse.
Yeah, Mrs. Morse again, goodness sakes. So, one of the things that we've been working on, since the, our graduation requirements are increasing, we feel like we're missing a group of kids that, while I don't want to make it sound like we're lessening our expectations for those kids, but realistically, we want to do what's best. We felt like there was kind of a subgroup of our kids that we maybe weren't addressing what they needed to succeed in their career paths. And so one of the things that the Career Center in Warrensburg has been working really hard on the last few years is the embedded credit, where they can earn a math credit by completing 2 years of any coursework there at the Career Center. They can also earn a credit of English language arts. And so knowing what some of those kids' career goals were and wanting to open up some of the options to take some other elective courses that might also go along with those career paths, we've really started looking hard at what that would look like. And so that is what the embedded credit proposal is in front of you. One of the things that I did, thinking about the things that might come up, thinking about, what if the student jumps from one program to the next? So they're in a first year course and then another first year course. I don't want them getting duplicate credit. So they would have to go both years within a course. So auto body, they would have to take it for 2 years to get that one credit of embedded ELA or that one credit in math. Now, for our students who are still college bound, that's where the counseling team would step in and they would counsel those students to still be taking your upper level math and English courses here at the high school. So that's what that's about. We know that like I said, there was that subgroup of kids who just really felt like we weren't meeting their needs. And we think that this will help do that. Questions?
So if somebody goes over there for 1 year,
They would get a half of a credit of ELA math.
okay, because you said that they may have to be there 2 years.
To get one credit, yes. Yes, to get one credit, yes.
And it's possible that this particular program and these embedded credits could save a kid from having to go to Gateway later on, or
Possibly.
Well,
We try not to send kids to the Career Center that are in danger of falling behind their credits, but that is a very small possibility, yeah.
I agree, and it's important to help these kids that maybe slipping through the cracks or at the bottom, that are ready to enter the workforce once they finish up with their
Right. They know they're going into auto body. They know that that's what they're doing. Those kids. Yeah, absolutely.
So are they then described as dual credit courses or not?
No, it's just embedded credit is what it's called. Dual credit, when we talk about dual credit, we're typically talking about college credit.
So this would
So
be
they
for
would not-
nothing but the,
High school credit,
okay.
yeah.
Mrs. Morris, it kind of reminds me of the standards-based competency approach to earning the credit.
Right.
Meaning there's certain objectives and standards they'd have to master that was already embedded into their specific career and technical field.
Yes.
They were studying, but there would be extra emphasis and competencies in math and ELA that they would have to master to earn the credit, correct?
Yes. And also I would like to say that our teachers are involved in building that curriculum. As a matter of fact, Ms. Craig came to me this afternoon and, asked what I wanted to do as far as sending them that, ask for our math teachers to come as a work session and really look at what the pieces that they are embedding and how we're applying those particular skills. So
So do we have to vote on this?
If
I
we
would.
need to be at work approval, yes, so we can offer that.
Make motion to approve the embedded credit as presented.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Do you want that to take effect immediately?
I would love for that to take effect immediately, if that is possible.
Make a motion that we amend that to make it effective immediately.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
I just have one question on that. Would that go retro to the beginning of the school year then?
Yes,
Okay.
any of our kids that are at BOTAP, yes.
Okay. I was hoping that didn't mean from.
Right,
today.
yeah, no.
Actually, Mrs. Morris and I both went to a meeting that addressed, and I believe our counselors that addressed just the embedded credit. We had learned more about it, so I want to thank Mrs. Morris for looking into that further for us.
Well, I would also like to thank everybody over there in the BOTAC program and David Richner and everybody else that teaches, that's involved in that program for their help. And those kids have an opportunity to learn a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Soccer, golf,
Mr. Easterwood.
Good evening. Thank you guys for allowing me to come speak with you. In your board package, you should see a packet that's presented. In that, there are expenditures, there are also facilities which we might use in the district if we were to obtain a soccer program. Also, I went through and kind of line item expenditures that might be associated with the addition of a soccer program.
On the stadium itself, I was reading here that, so it is large enough for regular season play, correct?
All right, a football field is 53 yards wide.
Right.
A middle school soccer field is 55 yards wide. So, yes, it is for a regular season play. That's something that we would tell other schools as we're scheduling. We plan on playing on these facilities, and they are not high school size or regulation. We would not be able to host any postseason play. Now, with that being said, if you look at our field, and in the very back, I have some Google images of that. You can see our triple jump, long jump pits run kind of parallel with the field on the side. Teams are starting to, and schools are starting to put those on the end zone so they can have dual purpose fields and widen that out. It is 61 yards from concrete points of that triple jump pit, and those are concrete, all the way to the concrete points of that track. Now, keep in mind, they're 120 yards, soccer field is 120 yards long, so it's the back of the end zone to the back of the end zone is where we're going. I also included in that Sedelia's new facilities, which are very nice, but I put that in there because they have dual purpose markings on their field turf, so you can actually see the width of a soccer field overlaps on a football field. But to answer your question, yes, 55 yards and is a junior high field, and yes, we could put that on there with additional chalk and markings. We'd have to mark those additional boundaries.
So in the end zones, the goals would have to be so they could be, or the field goal zone, or end zones for field goal posts, those would have to be removable. So the soccer goals could be placed in that place, correct?
Well, our goals are currently removable. However, I think we can get what they're called quick goals that have wheels on them, and they should be able to slide in there without, and give enough depth without removing those. Now, with that being said, I don't have a quick goal in our facilities, so
it would still.
Yeah, we
put a head up. It would still work with the goals that are there in place.
The goals are arched.
Yeah, they kind of come up.
The uprights are out front of an arch pole.
Right, but what if you said at the end of the end zone, so we're counting the end of the end zone being the orange and not the white stripe.
Look at your picture here. That would be the end of the orange.
Okay.
And then the arch part extends back past that.
Right, I just didn't know if it was the white or the orange.
Okay.
See, if you look at where the goalposts are, they're at the end of the white.
So I'm guessing they make a soccer goal that's under that. Just
Yes, I would have to check the depth of that soccer goal to make sure there is enough clearance there. That's something I haven't, but I do believe, we're talking with our current staff, that those goals, field goals are removable, although that would not be optional. I mean, that would not be our best practice by any means.
We could fit the goals on that
Yeah,
field
yeah.
without removing,
Yes,
and
and,
that would be the key.
and I was at Blue Springs last year, went there to their facilities, their quick goals were able to fit under there, and they have wheels on them, for easy of moving, I guess. I also kind of, talking with our facilities, we looked at 3 other possible places that we could fit in district. Mr. Birchie, we discussed yesterday, I went out there, that, the old baseball field is approximately 280 feet by 270 feet. So it gets us, in the width, we're all right, but the length, we're gonna get some trouble there. So that's why I didn't include that in here.
Talk about Miller Field.
Yes, which is a nice facility, but like I said, our length is gonna catch us, because ultimately we'll need 360 feet to get that, end zone, would be football back end zone, back end zone. The option 3 and, option 4 are gonna be quite pricey. We're parking the separate trees that need to be removed. But those are district options. I thought I included them on there.
Is that this field here?
The old trailer park.
Yeah, the old trailer park. I did also include the field south of non-Austria Athletic Complex. If, we want to do something different than the outfield of the practice baseball field, there is enough room just
One
to.
right there? Is that that one?
Yes, a soccer field and fit house field there is option 2, and then this field right here. I do believe that is district owned land.
The narrow strip there, right?
Right here.
Yeah, I didn't, it looked like property line to me. I didn't check titles or anything.
But
I didn't check
Hunkster.
the most, the quickest and best way to be able to get this program off the ground would be to utilize the current football field, without having to, spend gazillion tons of money on surveying, et cetera. So as long as we can use that field, as long as those goals would fit in there.
Yes.
That would save us the money of all the development of the land and everything for now, which would allow us the money to be able to get the program off the ground.
Right.
That is correct.
So I think that would be the most appropriate if that would work right now, barring any, tragedies that would happen on the track or whatever. I don't know if it would have to be covered in certain areas or, but they use turf shoes for soccer though, right?
I believe so. Yes, they do have turf shoes for those.
Yeah.
The concrete would be of some concern, there. I don't know, we'd have to look at options, possibly preventing any kind of injury on that.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be in the field of play, correct?
It would not be in the field.
So those could be just padded with, aren't there jump mats that go on those anyway?
We do have new mats on there. They're very nice.
So that, there would have to be no change in that then, right?
I wouldn't feel, the padding is not there in those. I wouldn't feel comfortable.
But aren't there jump mats that go on those pumps? Because this is blacktop. The main run is blacktop, correct?
That's correct.
Only the pits are they're built with sand, right? But they're just.
Concrete surrounding.
Right.
And so concrete would be my concern.
But if we recover those with mats, those will not be in the field of play. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if those were covered with some type of mat to protect anybody that would fall onto those, that would ease that problem.
That is correct.
So really, all that we really are concerned with now is getting some soccer goals and some uniforms and some kids.
That's correct. And the coaches and schedule.
Yeah, all that stuff, money. This was the big.
Now,
Where are we at on
I'm like,
turf on this bill? Where do we stand on that? I mean, I know this don't last forever.
It does. We're in year 7 or 8. We're hoping to get, 12, 13, or sky's the limit. But, I think.
Is there a certain time frame or recommendation?
I'm not prepared to give one at this.
No,
moment.
does the manufacturer recommend the time for the swaps?
It all depends on usage. Obviously, if we add a new program to this, that would speed up the usage on that.
I've got, and I haven't shared this info, but I had a turf guy out to look at that, and obviously where they enter next to the field, which would be the west end, is pretty worn. The opposite end on the east end is pretty good, but the recommendation was for between $15,000 and $20,000, we could add rubber input into it, which should extend our life by a couple of years before we have to replace. So that's something we want to consider.
And Dean, we looked at Admission 2020 plan, wasn't it in year 2 or 3, we were gonna work on doing
I believe so, yeah.
That was
Yeah,
just
we-
the draft. That
just the
wasn't
draft,
deal.
right?
But we,
But the field was a little bit later. So.
I don't think the field was on the plan.
I don't think it will be.
No, the field one, it was just the track.
Yeah, but we would put
so
that
some of
on.
my concerns on this, coaches, is, number one, you took a survey of amount the kids that would be interested.
That's
There
correct.
didn't seem to be a a lot of them said it would be good, but are you gonna participate? There wasn't a high percentage in there.
Yes, if you want to look at a survey towards the back section 4, right there, we surveyed, the survey went out a week and a half ago. Along the lines of number 3 current 7th through 11th graders. So we surveyed, you can see in the second, the breakdown. Now these are male and female together. In a couple of these, I did broke down the answers of how males answered, how females answered. Because guys soccer is in the fall, girls soccer is in the spring. But yes, if you look there on that second page, we specifically asked, soccer is added, how are you likely to participate? Absolutely not, and this is why I broke down male and female. Absolutely not. With 72 kids, that is approximately 23.2%. 40 of those responses were males, 32 of those responses were females. Absolutely will is that next one. 57 responses, 18.3%, said that they would absolutely play. That's a current 7th through 11th graders surveyed. 25 males, 32 females. The survey was also set up where the students actually enter a name, so they were not entering this anonymously. We do have record names and how we voted, but I think that gives a little bit more accountability to these. Likely not. 62 answered with close to 20%, 30 of them male, 32 female. Likely will, 51 answered, a 16.4%, 27 male, 24 female. And then a big percentage, 22.2% undecided there. So yes, the preface, absolutely will, the answers in the survey, 25 male and 32 female.
But your survey doesn't include kids out of district that might possibly live here, or kids possibly coming to our district, PCSing here or moving here.
That is correct. These are just current school kids that participated in my survey. Have about 10% of the kids that did not participate in for whatever reason, whether it happened that day, they get caught up. But yeah, out of the 300, most people participate. That's just 2 counties.
Well, and I think part of that is it's because it's not available, they're gonna say no. If once it's available, hey, my friend signed up, so I'm gonna play.
They're gonna decide.
Yeah, once somebody's playing, they'll see if it's cool. They'll do. But the other question is, you said men's is in the fall. How much of an impact do you think that will have on the football
I went back and looked at the numbers. Another one of our questions on the survey that, I don't know if I put it here, but it said, what other sports do you participate in? And we listed some fall and spring sports. There was approximately 12 to 14 respondents who currently play football at either middle school or high school level, 7th or 11th grade.
So not that much.
Well, it's all relative. I mean, you got 32, 33 kids on the team, right? And a high school team. So,
Mine's 4.
I think that we are, I mean, I don't see any problem with this at all as far as the soccer program. I think we should support this. And like I said, the biggest expenditure would be a place for them to play. And if we could get this thing kicked off on playing on that field, to see if there's interest there, without spending gobs of money to build a field.
Well, wait a minute, that's my other question on this. Is there any way to budget here to see if this program is even a viable option? You know, let's say we put it into effect. Is there any way we could cut these expenses at all?
there is some room,
This was the high side, right?
well, yes, I put in here with a head coach and assistant coach. That being said, depending on numbers, if we have 30 kids out in soccer, I feel we need an assistant coach to accurately kind of give them a go. But if our numbers are lower than that, we can possibly do without an assistant coach. There are some things in here, line machine, that's pretty accurate, paint, that's pretty accurate. There's some things, our contracted services, that is pretty accurate. I was talking with an AD just this morning. Officials are getting harder and harder to find, but they are findable by any means. But go look for the officials' costs to go down because in this area there are not a lot of soccer officials. They would have to come down to Kansas City or Clinton's AD. I think he's in his crews from Springfield, and so there are some travel costs the school has to incur because of that. But yes, some awards, the $400 for awards can be cut out. But I wouldn't feel like uniforms and things like that. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting these guys out there in t-shirts either. We want to put a good product out there that's going to represent our school.
Now, Colonel, I was thinking, there's a lot of guys on base and gals that I know that there's there are top soccer teams out there. And I know we talked about this a little bit before, that if they could come and coach, but would there have to be, I mean, I think we talked about there'd have to be an administrator or something on to observe or to oversee, that they could use that for their community hours or stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty likely that if you talk about starting a soccer program at the school, you have at least, 1 or 2 or 4 or 6 guys and gals who play soccer and want to help the school get started with that would be a volunteer. Would they be, I mean, obviously they do the same thing with our mentor program, background checks and that sort of thing. So I think there'd be volunteers of all sorts, coaches and, field preps and stuff like that to help get it off. And we just have to ask.
So see, that's also another, I mean, that's like a wealthy resource right there, because I know there's a lot of.
And there are a lot of people on the base hoping this takes off.
Absolutely,
So
I know, they can call it.
There'll be some people who put their mouth where their money is.
With that being said, for head coach, without filing hardship or anything, there would be a college credit hour requirement, some, which I'm sure we can find. But just some hoops from Misha that we'd have to jump through, other than the background check to get the head coach certified. If we were to get our head coach from,
I'd like to talk about one thing that Ms. Matthews talked about, Jesse Lomax, and that was what, other folks can bring to our community. And the thing is, if we have 5 families move here a year or 2 because of soccer, and each family's got 3 kids, and that's gonna raise our ADA. I mean, so, and I don't know what the specific number is for ADA right now, but I think it's considerable money, but you have to remember, you know, look at what that's gonna do for our ADA.
Well, I'm gonna remind the board that the Mission 2020 money is on hold right now. Until the consulting audit is done. So if we, you know, we can't, I don't think we can move forward with this vote tonight until we get the audit back. I don't know, maybe next month, you know, put it on the agenda for November. You're not gonna do it this year anyway.
Not this current year, and not
It'll
to,
be the next year.
yeah, not to put a timetable on you guys whatsoever, but you guys make my job a lot easier if this were to go through. If we were to know by early or by mid-January, let's say, because there would be scheduling that needs to occur, that affects other schools, their calendars being set. In fact, as far as fall goes, they are setting their calendar, their next year calendar right now. So as far as logistics of ensuring officials, ensuring quality games for us, good opponents, getting us in there. You know, January would be a timetable that would allow me to work, especially to the fall boys soccer.
So then, could the board vote on it and then wait on the money piece?
Well, we won't really end up spending any big money until next year anyway.
I would feel comfortable with, if we decided anything, with pursuing, more information on it for right now. And seeing what, I mean,
How much more do we
I'm
need though?
happy to support it, I really am.
So, okay, so how much more?
Any other sport?
No, without a doubt.
Can we choose who we play?
We can't choose who we play.
I mean, I really don't want to play like Oak Grove, Pleasant Hill for the first year.
No.
I think we got a lot of, around the community, a lot of, very good soccer players just waiting.
Well, I don't think we should drag our feet any longer on this. We can discuss it.
As far as those opponents go, you can look, and a lot of things go, well, Michigan goes in 2-year cycles. Next year would be the first year of a 2-year cycle. So when we secure our contracts, they would be 2-year contracts. We play home and away. So that's kind of, if we're going to do it, you know, it'd be this year or just wait 2 years, because it's hard, it'd be almost impossible to jump in and get games. We'd be playing JV teams because their varsity teams can filled up. But you can see on there, I included a list of possible opponents. I'd obviously try and go east first, and try our luck out those schools such as Colcamp. Lone Jack to the west, but Lone Jack just started a program last year. So we try to secure the best games we can to give our young men and women the best opportunity to succeed.
Yes.
But ultimately, there comes a certain point where teams quit playing soccer just regionally until St. Louis. And so we would have to go west, and we would have to see some of those teams to fill out a full season.
It'd be nice to just kind of ease into it instead of
Oh,
going out there.
yeah.
You don't know that.
So we got lots of feedback from what they're thinking about.
I have, yeah, I've talked to community members at games, I've talked to our teachers. I've heard from both sides, but, well, as a matter of fact, I've got a letter right here, an email that I got that was speaking out against it from a coach in the district. Brought some good points just about my damage our football team, as is our numbers who are already down. Our numbers starting to grow. It also mentioned Mike Hurt drove track as well in the spring. And they also kind of mentioned that Lone Jack started a team this year as well. The football team went from 32 members to 16 members this year. Now, I didn't say we're not Lone Jack or anything,
That's kind of why I asked that question.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean they won't end up with a winning soccer team.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. But to answer Mr. Joe's question, yes, I've heard for community members for it.
all these teachers. They really not
Well, like I said, I don't think we can move on this right now because we put a freeze on the Vision 2020. So we'll have the consulting audit back in November. We can put it on the agenda for November because the consulting auditors are gonna come in and talk to us, I hope in November. And then we can vote on it then and maybe take the freeze off of Vision 2020. And I don't know where else to go with this. And positive, I've talked to both sides. There's positive and negative feedback. Football team versus, soccer, losing numbers, gaining numbers, girls, boys. I mean, there's all kinds of opinions out there.
But this is not a football against a soccer. This is about adding some more things to the community to give to our kids to do, because we've got a whole group of kids there that don't have anything to do. So I think adding it, could only benefit our kids. So.
Well, Mrs. Morris is trying to get them involved in extracurricular activity.
And we're trying to help you.
And it's 4-2.
I'll make a motion that we move the soccer vote to the November agenda. And
I'd like to vote on it in November then.
I'd like to vote on it. I mean,
We
I
can
feel like
put it
we've done
under-
out long enough.
We can put it under old business, yeah.
Okay, let's table it till November.
And I would feel a lot better if we did that right at this time.
Well, I'm expecting a vote on it in November.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you guys.
Mr. Wood, you were gonna speak briefly on golf too.
Golf as well,
Before we move on to this subject, I know there was a question about what additional information might be wanted by the board. Is there anything specifically that you guys would like to see brought back before that real estate?
One, is that a firm on the, I know you talked a little bit about picking one of the coaches there. Is that a firm on the coaches for a single, for a season or multiple season or?
that is one season, that is.
Based on her salary schedule and her extra duty schedule.
Now, that being said, I brought them in as a head coach.
Right.
Two.
Girls and boys.
Oh, okay.
And then assistant, there's a certain.
Okay, so that's 10 to 12 for both.
Yes.
That's per.
Let me get to where you're at here. It is first year, and those are with the steps. First year, roughly 5,000 per.
Okay.
Two coaches, 10
All
total.
right, I was looking at it as.
Then as they go down their steps, they can get to
Right.
close to 6,000.
Okay, I just want to verify that.
And those are, to answer your question, those are not exact amounts, those are estimated
Yeah.
amounts that are familiar, that are close to our, we can bring them in step B if their season's shorter, or it's wherever we want to establish that head coaching stipend is at.
How long have we tried it? I mean, once we implement it, and we spend $62,000, are we bound to this forever now?
No,
Just for 2 years?
say, it would be a major black eye to the district if we were to back out on contracts mid-cycle. I would feel very bad if we did one and done, looking at other athletic directors, commission eye and say, you guys are short of game now because we pulled it up. So, at very, even your commitments, 2, 4, 6 type deal.
I agree, we're gonna commit to it. These 2 years, don't just give it a one.
Right, yeah, because your first year is gonna be a test period.
That's right.
And then you'll see what happens.
Well, and we may see a lot more participation year 2 as opposed to year 1.
And if I remember, there's, Neela would probably know this. Do you remember when they fought to get baseball here in town?
I do.
That
Not
first-
baseball,
Wasn't it-
softball,
Was it softball?
girls softball. Yeah.
It was horrible first year. I mean, it just, And the second year got better and better and better, and it's blossomed from there. So really, I mean, your first year, you can't judge by the first year, kind of like these test scores we looked at, you know? But,
Do you have any suggestions of what we should be looking at?
I was really more wanting to just clarify if there's anything else to do.
we talked about a month or so, it might have been longer than that, about somebody, that another district that was selling equipment or
They are not.
They are not.
I contacted them.
They were.
Yeah, it was a hot item in Holden as well, and they're not wanting to bring it up in which way.
No, but I mean, do they have equipment that can be sold?
They do not want to bring it up.
They don't want to.
Was that what,
I
was
see
that,
what you're saying.
was that the school that you thought?
Their football programs.
Okay,
Yeah.
Pretty big.
so we're gonna put it on the.
Right.
Thing, so you're gonna talk to us about golf?
Golf,
I got one more thing.
Oh, yes, sir.
On the soccer thing here. If by some chance you just come across the wind one night that there is a school that is possibility of wanting to disperse of their equipment, and it would benefit us to possibly do that. That might be something that we want to keep an eye on.
that's without a doubt. When in fact, when I started pricing stuff, the first thing I did was call Holden AD.
Yes.
And I said, hey, I heard you got some stuff that you're not using around there. And he goes, let me talk to the AD. And he called me right back in 15 minutes. He goes, we're not talking about that.
Well, just keep your eyes.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. We're gonna try and do the most cost
You
effective.
might be down Buffalo Wild Wings one night and somebody says, hey, we got some options for a soccer. Yeah, I like.
Ice rink.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you're talking to
Hockey
me.
season's coming up, the Mavericks are playing.
So what I'm hearing, no further surveys, no further information is required.
If something else is requested, feel free to contact me and we'll do our best, the best decision on it. Oh, I thought it was a baseball swing. I said, no, back to. Golf's, it's an easy one. It's one that we folded up about 2 years ago. We still have all the equipment. It's something that I can schedule really easy because it's not a match. It's not versus Oak Grove or anything like that. There's 3 schools playing, and I can call up and say, hey, can we play 2? And then get us in there. Current interest, we have between 9 and 12 male and female students that expressed interest in our golf program. They are self-admittedly not the best swingers out there, but they're interested in playing. We have one young man who played. The program was still here. Has been in my ear every year. Keep the program back. And so its cost would be approximately $10,000. That cost would include a coach. That cost would also include green fees to our local golf course as well as possible travel. It's not as hot ticket item as soccer is.
Well, here, go ahead.
There's nothing supplying for golf at all.
No, I did not survey, one of our students. I kind of put him in the forefront of collecting names of young men and women who are interested. But it would be a co-ed team, co-ed 4. It's kind of like I said, individual. They do get team scores for individual play.
And it's spring season.
It is spring season, that's correct.
So what time period would you need to say yes on that? Would that be sufficient next month too?
Next month would be sufficient for the following 2017 season.
2017 or 16?
It's a fall sport,
Oh,
so
okay.
2016 this year. It's probably too late to get something activated for this year, but that's following year 2017. I can get registered with Misha and get us going.
Once again, I support this. I say that we, once again, that on the November, we put it on old business for November also, and we vote on it. Anybody got any problem with that? I mean,
No, Redmond is good.
All business.
All business. All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank
Very
you,
much
guys.
for doing all that
Thank you.
searching.
And my board. And he's up again.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, it was, contact me, that we need to update our verbiage a little bit of our athletic handbook. So in your board packets, what I have done is I took our old handbook that's posted online, and anything that I've stricken from there, I have left and put a cross through. Anything that I have added to tighten up the verbiage is highlighted in yellow. These are just, like I said, these are just suggestions by all means. I've also included the MSHA bylaws in there as well, under the citizenship requirements.
Is that the citizenship standards?
Student essential bylaws, and then there are a couple things that kind of apply here where MSHA hits us citizenship 2.2.1. And then also another one would be 2.2.3 local school would be things that you want to take note of.
Can you recap that for us?
Under the mission policy, if you want to look at mission policy, the citizenship 2.2, citizenship requirements, 2.2.1, the citizenship, and then 2.2.3, local school. And I think a lot of what I dealt with would be under E of 2.2.3. Each individual school has the authority to set more restrictive citizenship standards and shall have the authority and responsibility to judge its students, under those standards. So when I began my tenure here, so you can see the athletic handbook. I left it in its original form other than the line stricken through there, and then any additions that I have suggestions to tighten our verbiage is highlighted there in yellow.
Well, I don't see that this has changed at all, I guess is what I'm asking. A student may not be in attendance for illegal alcohol consumption. Illegal alcohol, is that moonshine?
Well, it would be illegal consumption, so, underage drinking was what I put that in reference to. It was brought to my concern that, some scenarios were like, well, if alcohol is being consumed and if they're at a restaurant or something along those lines, can my student get in trouble with that? And I don't think that was the intent of the original athletic policy. And so I put that illegal verbiage in there. Yes, if a student was drinking moonshine, I think that would fall under there. But also if there was illegal consumption, meaning being of minors, that's why I just believe that illegal would tighten up that.
So the verbiage that you added is highlighted in the yellow, and you added the illegal.
Yes.
And the consumption. Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas it used to say for alcohol consumption, or alcohol and or.
Yes, a student may not be in attendance where alcohol and or drugs are present. That's how it originally read. And so that is kind of wide open for interpretation, although I think whoever wrote this policy had the best intentions. It is up for interpretation. So that's why I put that illegal consumption and illegal in there as well.
Anyone under the age of 21 is considered illegal, is that?
That's correct.
Okay, so where are we going with this? I mean, if some kid goes over to somebody's house and they're drinking there, and the child doesn't realize that they're drinking there when they pull up in the driveway or when they, go to say hello to their friends, and then they do realize there's drinking and they leave, are they still subjected to this under what I'm reading here?
No, my interpretation is when they find out that alcohol or illegal alcohol is being consumed, they've got to make a choice that either it goes or they go. Plain and simple. If if they know it's there and they choose to stay, and don't leave, then it would be applied. But I think when they know, they've got to make a conscious choice that either I'm gonna stay, or I'm gonna go, or it's gonna stay, or it's gotta go.
No matter what the circumstances are at the party. I mean, so-and-so, my girlfriend, my boyfriend's drunk, I don't wanna leave them. And where are the parents responsible for any of this?
Those are all good questions. I'm just taking the policy as it's presented and trying to tighten it up. I'll support whatever we decide, but, like I said, as it was written and as we do, so it is, what kind of message do we want to put on our students ultimately? I mean, where do we want to hold them? At what level do we want to hold them to?
Maybe I need to read this. What happens if it's a non-sports playing person?
We do not hold them by our citizenship policy. This is our athletic and activities handbook.
But there is a policy in place for that.
Well, let's say, for example, they come to a school activity, and are under the influence, then there is a penalty under our handbook, because they are a student, they are on school property, and they're participating in everything.
Okay,
Activity. But for example, if I don't play sports and I'm at somebody else's party, there is not, I mean, the sheriff may come and catch them, but there's nothing on the school's end. Accountable on that, and
It would be up to the law enforcement.
I played sports and
I haven't.
me and Colonel Sparks were there, and Colonel Sparks was 17 again. And I don't play sports, but he does. We're both there. He's held accountable and I'm not.
Well, if you're an A-plus student, that's one caveat I thought about. The A-plus program, you have to be a drug-free student, and so you could lose your eligibility under A-plus guidelines.
Okay, what happens if I'm not an A-plus student?
I think all the sports kids sign a paper, do they sign acknowledging this at the beginning of the year?
These student athletes,
Yes.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
yes, that's correct.
The only problem I have with it is if we're there and I decide that I don't like people that play football, I just don't like it. So I turn him in. I don't get in trouble, even though I was at the party, and he does.
It goes back then, that person's responsibility not to be there.
Well, I know, but
It doesn't matter, you pull it out, you pull out a joint, or you pull out whatever, that person needs to leave. Point blank. If I know what's going on, I know what I signed up to do. If I wanna do my sport, I'm gonna do. If I wanna hang around and worry about getting turned in because someone's gonna be a snitch and got mad at someone, I said, well, I knew that risk.
I mean, I think that we need to let them patrol themselves as well.
Right, but are
So
we
that-
going off hearsay or are we going on valid information for those guys?
So, yeah, social media.
Unfortunately, it's all right there.
But what happens if the kid pulls out a joint? He sees the joint, he knows, he's automatically guilty as soon as this other kid pulls it out because he's
Not
there.
necessarily.
I mean, I agree with there being a punishment for it. But I just wanna make sure that we're applying this punishment on valid information.
Yes,
Not on, just because I don't like football players, even though he was there, so I go turn in all the football players, and I'm just walking around school smiling and happy, but I got rid of the whole football team.
Well, I think that an investigation would be done, I mean, because there's legal ramifications of that too, I guess.
I don't know, I just wanna make sure that we're being positive about our punishment. On something especially like that, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say a couple things. The focus here is extracurricular activities are privileged.
Yes.
And as such, there can be certain stipulations that come with them. And the goal of this policy is to use those stipulations to guide our youth in the directions we want them to go, stay away from things that are illegal. And then to your point, I've been dealing with this for a long time, and I can say unequivocally that the investigation, the way that Mr. Easterwood conducted this, was the best I've ever seen, period. So I feel very confident in how we got there, the care, the attention to detail, the effort to vet out what was hearsay and what was even substantiated. I wish I would have had that kind of investigation in many prior scenarios that I've dealt with where there was a lot of gray area.
I'd like to also
Not
reiterate,
saying it was perfect, but I'm just saying based on his actions, I felt very confident.
also like to reiterate, and I feel the same, right? Mr. Easterwood handled this exceptionally well. But if you know some of the policies, we try to make this a teachable. You know, I mean, it's not you're automatically, you know, I mean, there's a 20%, penalty, and, it goes from there. So we do try to make this a teachable moment, but I think it's important that we do hold, our students to higher standards and to be good citizens.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just want to make sure. I make a motion that we approve that rewritten.
Okay. All in favor?
I have one more thing for Mr. Easterwood, real quick. I did get phone calls from particular parents, and I refer them back to you. I only wish maybe somebody would give me a little heads up after whatever time frame this event took place, that my phone started blowing up and people coming looking for me, that I would have maybe have gotten a heads up on. But I referred them to you. That's your job, But it would have been nice to at least maybe, if somebody gets arrested in the district or thrown in jail or something, before my phone starts blowing up, I'd like to maybe have the board president call me and say, hey, Mr. Percy, you need to be aware of this in case somebody calls.
I refer to you.
I appreciate it. Okay, I refer directly to you.
I didn't answer my phone.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
I'm thinking.
thank you, guys.
Election day, pursuant to petition received under board policy HH2.
Mrs. Matthews, the district did receive a petition seeking no union representation. So the next step was to identify the superintendent to meet with the contact person who had proposed this no representation, to identify a mutually acceptable person to the district, and the contact person requesting to change representation, to review and confirm the petition. That did take place. And then so some considerations for our board will be for a board to think about setting an election date, approving the ballot language, and providing notice of election at least 10 days prior to the election date. Consideration of the intent to bargain deadline should be noted, as this process is scheduled to begin December 1st, under 2015.
Do we have a copy of that?
And at this time, I'm sorry.
Do we have, I don't have that on.
No, this is just talking points that
Oh, okay.
I have, but I can definitely get you a copy of those. And at this time, I recommend tabling this matter until other considerations can be reviewed and discussed. I think we need to talk about this whole process.
So somebody make a motion? All right, thank you.
Or I think we
Okay.
just table it until
Yeah,
later.
Okay, we'll
Yes.
table it till later. Okay, so, English language learners, who's doing that?
Dr. Rawlinson.
Okay, so you guys should have the copy of the program evaluation. And I just want to hit a couple high points here as far as some of the enrollment information. We do have a certified staff member who teaches ELL, and you can kind of see that our numbers from 13-14 and 14-15 have held pretty steady. The program costs are primarily the cost of having the teacher and then some supplies and trying to travel. She attended a conference last year, so that was part of that. On the next page, when you look at the major goal objectives, you can see on the Access, which is a test that we get annually in January, I believe, we look at students and where they are in their acquisition of language. And so when you look at a student entering, that would be them coming into the program for the first time as English as a second language. And then reaching, obviously, is that they have mastered the goals and we feel like that they've kind of graduated from the program and can move on.
And so that gives you a pretty good idea of where the students are. We do need to work a little bit on our MAP scores for these students. They're a little bit low still in those areas, with a lot of our students falling in that basic to below basic area. But we do have some that are performing in the advanced and proficient range as well. What? Oh, okay.
No, we're not talking store.
Is this still working? That's good. When you're looking at the STAR results, you can see that we do have students that are continuing to grow. And even though they're not all reading on grade level, as we kind of heard throughout the night, our goal is definitely for each of the students to show some growth. And so when you look at the percent of students who showed growth at least 1 month, we were at 88%, which I think is a pretty good number there. As far as the success of the program on that last page, we do have 2 students who are no longer receiving services, so they've kind of graduated and are doing really well. And then we did a lot of professional development at K&E last year, which had really good, people were just really talking a lot about it, but they felt like it was really beneficial to learn more about ELL students and how they acquire language and how you can help them in their classrooms. And so one of the recommended changes based on the success of that is that we try to implement that at Whiteman as well this year. And so we're kind of looking at bringing in somebody to do that. We do have, I think that training was done by somebody that we contracted in. We do have access to a DESE, the English language department down there will come in and do free training for us. So we're going to talk to them and see if we can't get somebody in to do a little bit of training at Whiteman as well. As far as weaknesses, scheduling is going to continue to be kind of a little bit of an issue. I feel like this year her schedule is in a pretty good place and she's not going back and forth a lot. She's going from, she has some pretty set times and she's seeing all the students at Whiteman at one time, all the students at K&E at one time, at the middle school at one time. So I think it's gotten a little bit better on that. Her numbers shift quite a bit throughout the year as new kids come in. She's constantly doing evaluations, so her schedule kind of shifts a little bit throughout the year as well. Like I said, some of the changes that we talked about was making sure that we're continuing to work on aligning our can-do descriptors, which are basically the standards that we have in place for ELL students, with the Missouri Learning Standards, making sure that we're still working on those same things with those kids so they continue to show growth. And we haven't changed a lot of the procedures or processes right now for ELL, but that's definitely something that we're constantly looking at. As you know, things are always changing at the state level, and so we're just kind of keeping an eye on that and seeing if there's any way we can improve our program. And then I already talked about doing some additional professional development at Whiteman. Do you guys have questions on that? Yep. Okay. So I recommend the Board of Education approve the program evaluation as presented.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Federal program.
All right, federal programs. This is Title I, Title I preschool, Title II, and Title VI. So as you go through and look at this, we've kind of broken down the program costs for each one of these different areas. The goals here are really just trying to identify students who are not at grade level and who need additional support and interventions to help bring them up to where everybody else is. That's kind of the point of the Title I programs. And we do have a great preschool program. We're not quite full. I think we have 2 spots left in our Title I preschool, but we're doing a lot of screenings throughout the year. We kind of put in place this year to do, we've done 2 screenings where we have 1 day and we just schedule everybody back to back, and it's kind of taken a little bit of the pressure off the parents and teachers person to have to kind of run around and do people at different times, and we've gotten pretty good results from doing that, and it's kind of helped us look to see where kids are. If you look at the Title I preschool data, when the kids come in, if they've been in the program since at least December, if they are 3 going to 4, we reevaluate to see if they continue to be in the program the next year. So when you look at the Title I preschool data, this is kids who have progressed. So they're in the program, we're retesting them to see if they continue to be in the program. So you can see that like in 12-13, 5 students got retested, 5 graduated. 13-14, 6 got retested, 5 graduated, and 14-15, 5 got retested and 5 graduated. So that means that they made a lot of progress on their readiness skills for kindergarten. The DIBEL scores there, and again, we are always looking at the benchmark where they need to be, but we're again looking at growth. So all of the students made growth in this area. And then the STAR reading assessment, we had some really good, and I think we've already talked quite a bit about the STAR, and it's a really good assessment. We've definitely seen a lot of growth when kids are using those assessments. The math results, again, this is one of those areas that we need to continue to work on with these students to make sure that they are getting up in that advanced and proficient range. On the math, we did move some students up from that basic range into proficient, and a couple others to advanced, which I think was really good. And then on communication arts, again, we moved quite a few from that basic. We had 85, and then we were looking at 42 and bumping up to 24 and 8 in those top two tiers. So we did make some progress on that, but we still have some in that low basic and basic that we wanted to keep move up. On the Title II-A, we're basically using those monies to pay for a teacher. The 14-15, we paid for 2 teachers for class reduction sizes. This year, we're actually only paying for 1 for the class reduction. And then the Title VI money is basically professional development money. So there's just some things listed there that we've used for it last year, for the 14-15 year, we used Title VI money for it. Success of the program, obviously we continue to see student improvement. We're really looking at ways to continue to identify students who need those extra interventions and supports in place. We did do tiered monitoring self-assessments, and we were found in compliance on our MSET 5, and I think this was on the map data we showed earlier. The district was 14 out of 14% achievement, which is great. We're continuing to work as a school-wide title program. That can sound good or bad. The benefit of it is that it gives us a lot of leniency on how we spend our funds, and we don't have to just spend it on targeted students who have already qualified for the program. We can spend it on intervention programs to try to bring everybody up to another level, even if they don't actually qualify for the title program. So that's kind of the benefit of having the school-wide program. It also kind of forces us, as part of our requirements, to look at our assessment and plan and make sure that we have things in place to bring all of the students in the building up and to a level that gets them more effective on their achievement scores.
So how far away are we from that? Of being, I mean, do you have to be at a certain percentage to get to be a school-wide title?
We already are for the elementary buildings, both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Free and reduced one.
Yeah, it's based on socioeconomics for the most part.
Okay.
As far as recommended changes, we talked quite a bit with Title I teachers about some of our PTO and parent involvement activities. I know Tori Hunter has a Title I activity that she's working on right now, which is some parent involvement activities. The preschool is also working on a couple of things that they want to get together for some activities to get parents involved and get them into school and bring the kids in. And in the past, they've done some like story times. They've kind of hooked on with some of the things that are going on in the elementary schools. They kind of had their own booth and brought kids in and made sure that parents were aware of the programs. So overall, I think it's been pretty successful. Do you guys have questions?
For 2014, 2015, on Dibbles kindergarten, why was there such a drop of 11% drop?
Well, they're going to be different kids. So we're not really looking at the same students across the board, but we are looking at just kindergarten students at that time. So,
And on the math results, that is because of the new test also, that we went from below basic 6 and 13 and 14, below basic 6 and 12 and 13 to 20 and 14, 15 school year.
it's
And
possible. Yeah, like we were talking about the math scores, it's really hard to make a comparison because the tests are so different from the 13, 14 year.
Just makes it really look bad, though. I mean, it really looks
But on the
horrible.
positive side, if you look at 13, 14, basically it's 74, and 14, 15, we had 44. We only had 20 proficient, and we had 34, and we had 0 to advanced, and there's 2. I mean, so, there's always a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
The glass half full, come on. But you're right. I mean, I'm obviously.
Well, I
we
just
have
always
grandkids where-
worry about the kids
Mhm.
that are
Yeah.
that are struggling, and we worry about the middle group, which I hate that word benchmark, but we worry about that middle group. The upper kids, they take care of themselves. The middle group, we're concentrating on, and the lower group, that we are not leaving them behind. I don't know how many times I can stress that those numbers that always show the below the benchmark, it just seems like those numbers are getting larger in everything that we're looking
Well, and I think it's a hard thing to really gauge, honestly, because it is a new test. So I think the next couple of years, we'll be able to get a better sense of what's
I hope
working
so.
and what's not.
And that we're not just teaching the test, we're teaching the children.
And then you guys did have a preschool survey, I believe it was passed for the Title I preschool. So, you guys have any questions about that program at all?
I'll make a motion to approve the program as presented.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Effort for time here, I'd like to move L&M to next month's meeting, unless we have a meeting before that, but we can have on it. And then move into executive session.
That would be the review of board policy.
It's just a review of board policies.
Yeah.
Items L
And the new ones from MSBA, right, so, I mean, it's not like,
I'm agreeable. I guess one thing I'd like to offer is, do we just put on the consent agenda next month if there's no issues on those reviews? Then we just knock it out with that consent. If there is, we just pull them off. And at that point, we can pull off one policy. So, we've all reviewed these policies. We're gonna have another 30 days to look at them. I can also, one, we can chase down questions if we realize one policy, but I just want to put that out there. We can always yank a policy off. We won't have to yank all of them just to discuss one. But yeah, thanks.
so going
I make I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 610.0213, point 13, RSMO 610.0211, RSMO 610.0219, and 2.
Second.
roll call.
Aye.
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 So let's take till 1:45, which is about 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and come back so we can. And, if somebody want to make sure that all the stuff is shut down, we can. It's still 14.
Yeah.
You're the quiet one. It's over there.